The fall season is just starting and Explorers are already ranking in honors. Hello, I'm Gia Lancy.
And I'm Tyler Small. 4 of the 5 teams are over 500. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. Men's soccer off to their best start since 2015, and Isaiah Clark has the coverage.
And later, we will check in on our former stars of the men's basketball team, last year's light-out closer, and some of the fastest swimmers in Explorers history as they continue their athletic careers at the next level.
But first, let's take a look at our SportsLine top 3.
Number 1 is senior Grace Mancini, starting the season right where she left off last year. Mancini won the Lehigh Invitational 6K race, finishing a notch above 21 minutes and 20 seconds, dominating the field by 35 seconds faster than the next competitor. This earned her Atlantic 10 Cross Country Performer of the Week for the second time in her collegiate career. This time is 2 seconds faster than the 6K Mancini ran at the NCAA Championship last year. We will have more on the women's cross country team later on in this show.
Number 2, 3 women's soccer players earned weekly awards from their A10 this week. Firstly, Macy Bauer won Co-Offensive Player of the Week. She took the award after a 2-goal week, one a game-tying goal against FGCU and the other game winner against St. John's. Next, Claudia Jenkins was named A10 Defensive Player of the Week after recording 10 saves against FGCU and shut out St. John's. Finally, Kayla Miller-People won an A10 Rookie of the Week after dishing out an assist in each game.
Number 3, LaSalle's Nigel Buckley received Philadelphia's Soccer 6 Player of the Week for his performance over LaSalle last week, which included a 2-goal game against Robert Morris and a game-winning assist that came while playing LIU. Buckley is a recipient addition to the Explorers after transferring from Durham College in Ontario, Canada. Nigel has been a key factor for LaSalle's success, and the sophomore play will be vital for the Explorers season. So just great feats to come into the new season after a great summer. And I think the one that stood out to me was Buckley getting those honors, as he's going to be a key contributor just transferring over this year, filling in for Owen Toye, who is obviously not here this year.
Definitely, yeah. And definitely for cross country,
The Mancini sisters, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
We were talking about it before. One of 4 now that go here to LaSalle and run for the team, and it's going to be an exciting year.
Let's see how the Explorers have fared at the beginning of the fall season as we check out the recaps. Volleyball started off its season in the Golden Dome Invitational held by Notre Dame. In their first match, they were able to take a game from the host school, but were eventually defeated 3-1 by Notre Dame. Next, they rebounded and took down Bowling Green in a close 3-2 victory. Later that day, LaSalle couldn't keep up their momentum as they once again lost 3-1 this time to Wright State. The Blue and Gold would stay on the road and travel to New Jersey to compete in the Seton Hall tournament. The Explorers would fare much better in this competition, winning 2 of 3 games. First up, they took down Binghamton 3-0 before later that same day beating host school Seton Hall 3-0. As well, in their final game of the tournament, they went head-to-head with Northern Arizona, but would unfortunately lose the match 3-1.
After a lackluster start to the season that began with a 2-0 loss to 8th-seeded Duke and a 1-1 draw against North Florida, the Explorers picked up their first victory of the season over NJIT. They found themselves in the loss column once again after a 0-1 loss to Drexel. The Blue and Gold then went on the road and picked up victories against Florida Gulf Coast and St. John's. First, the Explorers defeated Florida Gulf Coast in a 2-1 outcome. Macy Bauer and Amira Lokitis both scored a goal apiece. Goalkeeper Claudia Jenkins commanded the game with 10 saves. Then Macy Bauer would once again find the back of the net in the LaSalle Explorers' 1-0 win over St. John's.
LaSalle's men's soccer team started their season off with a 2-1 victory over Iona. Redshirt freshman Colin Bateman got their scoring started for LaSalle headed a ball home in the 55th minute off a corner kick. The game ended up being tied 1-1 going into the 78th minute before freshman Frank Mizker found senior Pat McCarthy for the game-winning goal. The men couldn't keep up their momentum in their next match against St. Francis Brooklyn, losing 3-0. The pressure was on as 9 different Explorers recorded a shot, but St. Francis had the advantage 7-4 with shots on goal. Sophomore goalie Brett Warner was able to make 4 saves in goal, but the Terriers goalie was able to match him with 4 saves to shut out the blue and gold. Next up for the Explorers was a homestand against Robert Morris and Long Island. Isaiah Clark has the coverage.
Men's soccer had back-to-back home games this week, and I've got you covered for both of them. First up was a match against Robert Morris. It didn't take long for LaSalle to get on the board as sophomore Nigel Buckley scored in the 3rd minute, his first of 2 in the game. It only took 5 minutes for LaSalle to score again, as Ike Hollinger scored his first collegiate goal, putting the Explorers up 2-0. For the rest of the half, it was nothing but pressure from the blue and gold, as Robert Morris faced 13 shots in the first half. At the same time, LaSalle's defense was doing its job, as Robert Morris was only able to get off 3 shots. RMU was finally able to catch a break by the end of the half, sneaking in a goal to make the game 2-1. It was more of the same in the second half, as LaSalle outshot RMU 24-7 for the game, while goalie Brett Werner only had to face 4 shots on goal. Finally, in the 78th minute, Nigel Buckley would score again, closing out LaSalle's 3-1 victory over Robert Morris. Next up, LaSalle faced off against LIU. It was a defensive matchup in the first half as both teams combined for 8 shots, while goalie Brett Warner only needed to make 1 save to keep the game scoreless going into half. By the second half, LaSalle started to break through the Long Island defense, still playing tough defense of their own, until the 62nd minute when Nigel Buckley would find senior Pat McCarthy for the first and only goal of the game, putting LaSalle up 1-0. From there, the Explorers would continue to lock down defense, making the final score 1-0. The wins put LaSalle's overall record to 3-1 on the season and undefeated at home. For SportsLine, I'm Isaiah Clark.
The men's and women's cross-country teams both kicked off their seasons at the Lehigh Invitational. For the women's side, as we said earlier, Grace Mancini brought home the gold with a 21-minute, 21.71 second finish. The senior standout was followed behind junior Lexi Cirantino and sophomore Liz Mancini, who finished 6th and 7th, respectively. The women's finished out the meet with a second-place team ranking, only 1 point shy of first on the men's, and as the men's for the most part. Finishing between 24 and 28 place individually, junior Joe Boyle led the pack, coming in with 19 minutes, 47.99 seconds, followed by redshirt senior Anthony Harthorn, junior Luke Zaku Zirakowski, sophomore Ibrahim Kadir, and senior Nathan Gillis. The men's squad placed 3rd overall.
The field hockey team started their 2019 by splitting their first 4 games. They began by defeating Sacred Heart 3-0. The Explorers had an early lead in their first game against Sacred Heart with a goal in the first 5 minutes by freshman Hannah Jonovich, with an assist by Lauren Leek-Littner. Freshman Norali Dumont added to their lead in the second quarter off a penalty corner. Lauren Leek-Littner closed out the game with a goal in the 4th. Next up was a match against Temple where the Explorers dropped the game 3-0. The blue and gold couldn't bounce back against Ryder, losing 2-1. LaSalle would return to the win column in a huge 6-0 win over Wagner. Leek-Littner would find the net in the first 2 minutes of the game. It only took 5 minutes for junior Riley Allen to score again for the Explorers. She would finish the game with 4 goals. A goal from freshman Casey Riley would put the nail in the coffin, finishing a game where LaSalle outshot their opponents 34-3.
Men's water polo opened their season at the Navy Invite this weekend. They opened the tournament against 12th-ranked Princeton Tigers, losing 15-4. LaSalle would bounce back in their next match against Austin College, winning 14-11 and earning the first win of the season. The Kangaroos jumped to a 3-0 lead early, but junior Daniel Demotor and freshman Derek Allen were able to cut the deficit to 1 before senior Joey DeFusco tied the game up. Austin College would score 3 straight in the second to take back the lead, but the Explorers rallied in the final 2 quarters to take the win. The Navy Invite concluded on Sunday with a match against Fordham and second-ranked UCLA, which saw LaSalle drop both games. First up was Fordham, where the men dropped the game 15-6. The men were then blown out of the water by UCLA, losing 20-2. DeMotor and Williams scored LaSalle's only 2 goals.
That's it for recaps, but when we come back, we'll check in with some of our alumni as Steve is joined by Josh Abrams for Sports Chat. Stay tuned.
Yo, bro, what's good?
What's going on?
How you feeling, man?
Doing good. How you doing?
When'd you start smoking?
Smoking? It's a jewel, bro.
It's a jewel?
Yeah.
Listen, you might as well be smoking cigarettes. When you start juuling or vaping, you're 4 times more likely to start smoking cigarettes.
Is that true?
That's very true. Give me the jewel. You don't need it.
To learn more about e-cigarettes, go to thetruth.com.
Hook to the dollar feature and you're on my mind. Return of the creature, the crawler from the subway line. You're always keeping me waiting, keeping me waiting for you.
Welcome back. Some recent graduates have been popping up in the professional sports world. Steve Silvestro sat down with Josh Abrams to discuss how they've been doing. Check it out.
With another season of SportsLine, that means another season of Sports Chat. That means we're at season 3 here. But today, I have Josh Abrams on desk with me, but we're going to be talking about the alumni of LaSalle, and we're going to start off with B.J. Johnson. B.J. Johnson was just selected to the NBA G League elite team. He was one of 12 players to make this. They will be going down to Uruguay September 21st, and they will be there a week playing in a 6-team tournament with the Mexican national team, the Uruguay national team, a team from the Argentina League, a team from the Brazil League, and a team from the German League. His performance really comes from when he was with the Lakeland Magic and has outstanding numbers. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, you know, his scoring took a little bit of a dip once he got to the Lakeland Magic, but that's a given because, you know, unless if you're a top prospect, a top draft prospect coming out of college, you're not really expected to contribute all that much. But either way, BJ contributed greatly. His scoring average dipped a little bit, but it was still at 15 points a game. His field goal percentage, I think, is really significant in that it's staying the same. It's not dipping at all. Mm-hmm. He doesn't seem to be – that probably means that he's not forcing any shots. He's not taking any contested shots that don't need to be taken. I think he's really starting to develop his game, and just doing all of this is a great way to get it started.
Well, one thing we did see last season was his month of February, he matched his numbers basically when he was at LaSalle, averaging almost 20 points a game, shooting incredible everywhere from around the court. And that got him a 20-day contract with the Atlanta Hawks. It was 2 10-day contracts, and then a 10-day contract with the Sacramento Kings. What did you see in those games with him in the NBA?
I mean, I think in the limited time that we got to see him play, I think he felt comfortable in terms of just getting his shots off. You know, when you're kind of going around from team to team, it's really hard to figure out your fit in an offense because every team plays differently on offense. But you know, the way BJ plays is that, you know, he's going to try and get open. He's 6'7" and he's long, so he's going to try and shoot over any kind of defender that's in front of him. You know, it's really hard to assess and tell how his game looks, again, because of the small sample size. But because of his talent level and the numbers that he has put up so far in his professional career, I don't think it's out of the question for him to stay in the league.
Well, I think he's definitely always going to be in the record books, because in his second game, going with you, he tries to shoot over people. Dwayne Wade blocked his shot, and that was actually what set Dwayne Wade as the all-time leader in blocks by a guard for career stats. So he's always going to be in history with Dwayne Wade.
Just on the wrong side of it. But either way,
You take what you can get.
Yeah, exactly.
Going to his fellow classmate, Tony Washington, who was also class of 2018. He, after LaSalle, went to the Netherlands, playing for Academia Limburg, and now recently has signed with Rogaška Crystals in Slovenia. His stats are not the same as what he was in LaSalle.
No.
He looks like he is more of an offensive president, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he virtually doubled his stats, going from about 8 points a game and 6 rebounds a game to 12 and 11. And I think him doing that on a new team, I think, was a given. When Tony played here, his role was mainly to grab boards, to try and block shots, and I don't think he was necessarily great at on the defensive side. But he's still young. They're all young when they come out of college. And his rebounding numbers went up, probably because of how much more athletic he is than a lot of the people in this league over in the Netherlands. So, obviously the numbers were going to increase, and it's good to see for him, obviously.
Yeah, really getting the bounce around Europe, gets his name out there. He continues to build up. A funny thing to see with him is it's one of the rare stats you'll ever see. He's got a perfect three-point percentage because he is exactly 1 for 1. You rarely see those kind of things, because usually if it's 1 for 1, it's like a half-court shot.
Right.
I wonder if he made his half-court shot.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it would make sense for him to take a single three-pointer, but it's better than what we see from Ben Simmons. I don't know.
It is. Going to their other teammate at the time, Pookie Powell, class of 2019. He hasn't gotten to play professionally yet, but he has just signed a contract in the same league that Tony started in the Netherlands, playing for the Rotterdam Challengers.
Yeah, I mean, Pookie was always an interesting player for me, watching him play at LaSalle. He was always our leader because of how talented he was offensively and being our point guard and whatnot. But there were also points and times where he would try and force the issue a little bit. I'd like to think that most, or if not, maybe half of his turnovers came from unforced errors. But that's going to happen when you're young and you're trying to take the role of someone putting the team on your back. Mm-hmm. Pookie's numbers took a bit of a drop, averaging about 17 to 18, maybe 20 at LaSalle to 15 in the Netherlands. But either way, Pookie's still a talented player, and I think we're going to see him thrive overseas.
Getting away from basketball, we're going to go to the swimming team. The swimming team had two graduates and 1 current player, Matthias Glenzek, and all 3 of Fabian Bergman and Marcus Forsgren all went to the Swedish National Championship. Matthias won his 800 free and came in second for the 15 free, which they're all record setters here at LaSalle with multiple records to their name. But this top 5 performances by both him in 3 events and Fabian Bergman in 2 events really shows that LaSalle's swimmers really are great.
And I think this has to be a testament to the coaching staff, or if not the coaching staff, whoever is involved with recruiting with the water or the swimming staff, because you said all these kids are coming from Europe, the Netherlands, and especially Fabian Bergman. I remember him being such a mainstay on this show, just because of you see he's got 4 different LaSalle records for 4 different events. He's obviously probably the most talented swimmer to come through here as of late. But again, going back to my original point, just to be able to get these kids from all over the world is just really cool, in my opinion.
All right, we're going to go real quick to Connor Hinchcliffe from the baseball team. Last year, he actually led the nation in saves with 13 saves for a good midway point in the season. He is now signed with the Phillies in a minor league. He's in the single-A rookie level for the Gulf Coast League of the Phillies. His 16 appearances still continue with his great ERA of 1.82. Where do you think this guy can go up to?
Well, with the way that the Phillies pitching has been this year, we could certainly use him in the next couple of years. But that's besides the point. Connor Hinchcliffe clearly showed that he's a very, very solid pitcher. The 2.27 ERA he had at LaSalle, even the 2 losses he had, the losses don't mean anything for a relief pitcher unless if you're giving up the runs. But I mean, you see his ERA even in a smaller sample size, it dropped. And that's good to see for him because, I think no matter what kind of pitcher he becomes in this farm system, if he stays in it, the Phillies will eventually need him at some point. And again, it's going to be the question is when, what situation and circumstance comes up for him to be able to go up to the big leagues. But, again, back to what we said about BJ and Pookie and all the athletes is that this is a really great first start for getting your name out there.
Yes, and that's all the time we have. And we wish good luck to every one of the LaSalle alumni and all the future ones that will be graduating soon. That's all we have here from me and Josh. We'll send it back to Tyler and Gia.
It was so nice to see all the alumni that are all across the world.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, just going wherever their name is called, like, for example, Pookie Powell going overseas, and he was just a natural-born leader with this LaSalle team. No matter where he goes, he's going to be controlling the pace of play with the ball and just controlling it in the locker room. It's going to be fun to see. BJ Johnson getting another opportunity just to stay in the league, and if they ever give him some minutes, he's obviously going to make the most of it and make most of his time with a rebuilding NBA team. And you look at Hinchcliffe, who had a long stretch of the draft waiting next to the phone.
Yeah, especially with the baseball team not performing very great last year. It was awesome that we got something out of it, right?
He was a silver lining, you're right. And any back and forth game or tight game, he was that stud in the end of the bullpen that could win the game for him. We'll take another quick break, but when we come back, Isaiah Clark will join the desk to talk about the Weekend Explorers Report.
Exposure to blue light can mess with your sleep and memory cycle, so make sure you limit your screen time at least 2 hours before you go to bed.
There's plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week, so let us welcome Isaiah Clark for this week's Explorer Report.
Thanks, Gia. Sunday, September 15th, women's soccer will match up against Navy at McCarthy Stadium. LaSalle holds a 3-2-1 record on the year with one more game against Delaware before the matchup. On the offensive side, the Explorers have been led by redshirt senior Macy Bauer, who have scored 3 of the Explorers' 5 goals. The blue and gold are anchored by a strong play of goalie Claudia Jenkins so far this season. She holds an 86% save percentage with 30 saves. Moving on to the opposition is Navy with 5-1 record on the year, with a game against Gardner-Webb remaining. The Mids have been led so far by senior Baisley McClaskey, who has 2 goals on the season to go with 2 assists. In order to win this matchup, the Explorers will have to keep up the pressure on a Navy defense that has 3 shutouts on the season and have only allowed their goalie to pace 32 shots on goal, compared to LaSalle's 77.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a tough matchup for the Explorers. We'll get to our picks in just a moment, but Navy coming off a great season, 5-1. They've played a lot of better competition throughout. They've floated around the MAC for a couple of games. They had to face an SEC team, so definitely going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah, but I think LaSalle still is a talented team. There's still a lot of leftovers from 2 years ago when we won the A10. And I think a lot of the talent is still there for us to make a run like that again. And I know our competition hasn't exactly equated to Navy's so far, but I think, Macy Bauer is still a solid striker that is going to lead us to a victory, no matter what the competition is.
Definitely, yeah. So you want to start with your picks?
Yeah,
All
let's
right,
do it.
I'll start. I think Navy 2-0.
Good job remembering.
Yeah.
I'm also going to go with the 2-0 score. And you did highlight on it Macy Bauer coming off of a fantastic 2017 season where she was the winning goal for the A10 championship, had to sit out the entire 2018 season, and has come back and has hit the ground running, which is great to see. In an interview with Paul Royal, he said that, quote, his goalie, Claudia Jenkins, is the best in the A10, but his back line of the defense is the best in the nation, he thinks. He'd compete with anyone, and you've seen it in their games, but I just think that the offensive struggle has been too much for them this year, especially for a Navy team that's averaged over 2 goals a game.
Definitely, yeah. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything against Navy, but the defense, I think, will be able to hold them to at least 2, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll beg to differ because actually my pick is actually LaSalle 2-1.
Oh, okay.
Now, I know LaSalle is kind of an inferior opponent, I would say, to Navy, but, we have a good, striker, like a good offense.
Yeah.
It seems like Macy Bowers really stepped into her sister's role, Madison Bauer, who graduated last year. She just immediately stepped into that leader in the offense. It's early in the season, so we don't really know who exactly everyone's going to be as far as leaders go. But I think our defense is still solid. I think they can hold their own. Claudia Jenkins is like a beast in the net, and I think we can pull one out against Navy.
Yeah,
It would
I
be
agree.
great to see. It would be a big win. And you're right. Just referencing back to that offense, they've struggled throughout the year, but I think that they'll hopefully be able to hit their stride in this tough matchup.
That just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the Explorer Report, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com or check out this week's edition of the Collegian.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on Twitter or Instagram at SportsLine LTV. Be sure to check out our weekly poll, pork roll or Taylor ham? Obviously Taylor ham. We welcome you to send us your thoughts or suggestions there.
For Stephen, Josh, Isaiah, and our SportsLine team, I'm Gia Lancey.
And I'm Tyler Small. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you at the game.